Hey there, this is Ryan Kingslien, founder of ZBrush Workshops. So I want to share with you this little clip, this time-lapse from our upcoming Sculpting Thor workshop. And the goal of this workshop is to sculpt a super powerful super being that is just leaping into the fray with this massive battle cry. So I'm using the mannequin to get the pose roughly the way I want, and I use the mannequins because I can quickly create multiple poses. I can create as many as I want really relatively quickly, and then when I'm ready, all I got to do is just remesh it. Just press remesh in the subtool palette or sub palette, and then I've got a mesh that I can start sculpting. So now I'm using the inflate brush. I'm just hitting the main forms here, getting the rib cage fuller, the hips fuller, the thigh, arms, all of that stuff. Just trying to get the main blocks of clay in place. And the inflate brush is really good for just quickly getting that going. So starting off with that is a really good option. Then using move, as you see me doing, and then using this next brush, which is actually essential to this maquette process, trim dynamic. So I share this with everybody that I possibly can because trim dynamic is awesome. And if you haven't seen it in operation before, it's kind of a revelation because it creates form really clean, really fast. And it allows me to do exactly what I'm doing right now, which is hit these anatomical notes with really broad strokes. Really broad strokes. You can see the rib cage, the abdomen was just forced into this flat plane, so it really helped the drama of the pose. I established the flat plane for the chest. That really helps the drama of the pose. And then get the musculature, flat plane for the bicep, flat plane for the ridge muscles, flat plane for the knees, all of these things. So it starts to look like a Bridgman drawing. You know, that's kind of the end goal here, is just to make this super structured form. And one of the weak parts of that maquette that I was starting with earlier, I'm fixing right now. And the knee is a big issue. You know, where do you create your planes? The inside of the knee was a real problem for us, but now it looks a little stronger and looks better. So now the goal is to go in with, say, the clay brush and just start to pick up even more of these individual points. So what is the bicep looking like? What's the tricep? How's it all interacting? As well as get the pose right. And that's the beauty of this, because I'm not dealing with topology. I'm not dealing with any production aspect. I don't care about it right now. Now, that creates a whole set of problems, but so does topology. I'm just getting in, and my goal at this point, because I want a powerful character, my goal is iterate through. Get as many versions as quickly as humanly possible. So this whole sculpt you're seeing here is something like an hour and a half in progress. So the whole thing that you'll end up seeing. And being able to do that in an hour and a half and have something as finished as this, or as close to being finished as this, is really a wonderful thing, because it really gives me a sense of how solid this form is going to be and really what I need to do for the character. So this is just one part of our Sculpting Thor workshop. There's a whole nother part where we sculpt him in the neutral pose and go through the proportions, 8-head proportions, 9-head proportions, and give him this really beefcake body, all in the neutral pose. But we're starting him over completely from scratch here. So the more times I sculpt him, the better I'm going to be. I'm going to learn a lot every single time, and that's why I want to be sculpting them fast like this, because then I can start iterating through. So right now you can see me, I'm using clay buildup. And one of the ways I use clay buildup is to just develop the volume of it. So you'll see I cut in, I press Alt around the muscle I'm going to work with, and then I'll come and brush along the contour of the muscle and create the form for it. And that's going to really help me understand the gesture and the form of how everything relates. It really taxes your anatomical knowledge, but then when you're done, it also tells you what you need to learn and what you still don't know, because it becomes a little bit obvious. So I'm just continuing this process anatomical point by anatomical point, getting the triceps, relationship of those to the deltoid, getting the forearm, teres major, all of these parts and pieces. Now I want you, when we get back to it, I want you to pay attention to the forearm. And I want you to pay attention how I separate out the ridge muscles from the flexors. So that's that line down the middle. And then I separate the ridge muscles from the extensors. And then I separate the extensors from the flexors. So I know, that's a lot of language, but when you're sculpting forearms, think ridge muscles, extensors, flexors. You think about those three things, they become easier to sculpt. Now I'm just adjusting the rib cage, external oblique, and I'm starting to wrap this up. So we're getting towards the end of it. And we've cruised through it really fast, so it's going to be hard to get anything materially useful for you in terms of your knowledge out of this. But I want you to see this all in one stroke so that you see the big picture of how we start from the simple forms and then progress all the way to the more complex forms. But when we work on a complex form, we still treat it as simply as we can. We treat it as a bulk and get the contour right and treat it with a sense of solidity. So I hope you enjoy.